Vendredi 30 avril 2021, Madame, Messieurs, bonsoir. C'est l'heure du Prime News sur My Media Prime Television. Et pour l'ouverture de ce journal, 4 ans après sa suspension à la suite de l'accident ferroviaire d'Ezeka, l'Intercity Douala-Yaoundé reprend le rail. Le ministre des Transports, Jean-Ernest Ngale Bibeye, a assisté hier au voyage inaugural avec à sa suite de nombreuses personnalités politiques. Je vous propose de suivre ce reportage de Nora Kakibi.
Cameroon's Minister of Transport, together with some state officials of the Cameroon Railway Company, CAMRAI, undertook a trial journey from Douala to Yaoundé on board the company's rehabilitated train express, which is due to resume transportation of passengers in the days ahead. Jean-Ernest Ngale Masena Bibehe, Minister of Transport, accompanied by some CAMRAI officials, administrative, religious and traditional authorities, were all on board one of the renovated wagons. Reports say the wagon made several stops at Edea, Makak, Ngumu and Ezeka, at the end of which the country's transport chief, Jean Ernest, made an appraisal of the technical state of the renovated wagons expected to ply the rails in the days ahead. This new innovation is quite laudable, but it should be noted that Cameroonians have still not forgotten about the Ezeka train incident on October 16, 2016, when an intercity passenger train traveling from Yaoundé to Douala derailed in Ezeka and claimed 79 lives, leaving 550 persons injured. This was considered the deadliest rail accident on the African continent after the Baneleka train accident in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2007.
Parlons éducation où le ministre de l'Éducation de base, le professeur Laurent Serge Etondi, a reçu récemment une délégation de l'entreprise Carousel Finance qui a fait don d'1 million de licences du logiciel MyOffice destiné aux écoles primaires, ceci pour favoriser un système éducatif informatisé. Je vous propose de suivre ce reportage. C'est une importante donation d'une valeur de 542 milliards de francs CFA. Présenté au ministre de l'Éducation de base, le professeur Laurent Serge Tundingwa, il s'agit précisément d'1 million de licences du logiciel informatique appelé MyOffice avec une durée de licence de 10 ans offerte par la société Carousel Finance représentée par son directeur général. Un accord qui vise à améliorer l'éducation de base au Cameroun pour une éducation de base informatisée.
Ces outils vont permettre aux enfants de pouvoir optimiser leur capacité à pouvoir créer de la valeur ajoutée pour le Cameroun.
Cette aide permettra au gouvernement de faire face aux défis du Covid-19 qui fait subir au système éducatif un choc sans précédent. L'on se souvient d'ailleurs de la fermeture des écoles dans le cadre de la lutte contre la pandémie à coronavirus. Pour le ministre, il est question d'étendre cette initiative afin que tous les élèves soient habitués au système informatique.
L'ambition du gouvernement est de voir toutes les écoles des fins fonds de village en ville avoir un dispositif informatique pour que nos enfants soient habitués à cela, le connaissent dès leur bas âge et puissent grandir avec. Nous avons déjà des logiciels expérimentaux au niveau du ministère depuis 1 an. Les écoles qui ont déjà un ordinateur peuvent avoir le logiciel demain matin.
Les 1 million de licences du logiciel MyOffice seront partagées entre le ministère de l'Enseignement supérieur, le ministère de l'Enseignement secondaire, le ministère de l'Emploi et de la Formation professionnelle et le ministère des Postes et Télécommunications qui recevront 200 000, 150 000, 100 000 et 50 000 respectivement du logiciel MyOffice, le reste réservé à 500 000 écoles à travers le pays. Et toujours parlant de l'éducation, c'est ce communiqué signé le 29 avril. Le ministre de l'Éducation de base, le professeur Laurent Serge Tundingwa, porte à la connaissance des candidats au certificat d'études primaires et au First School Living Certificate, des parents d'élèves, des responsables en charge des examens et concours dans les services centraux et décentrés du Mineduc et de toute la communauté éducative nationale que l'épreuve éducation physique et sportive se déroulera exclusivement par écrit en raison de la recrudescence à la pandémie à coronavirus dans notre pays. Par ailleurs, et pour les mêmes raisons, les candidats au First School Living Certificate composeront uniquement en drawing et painting en ce qui concerne l'épreuve de practical activities. Autre chose à présent, les agents de la communauté hier Les agents de la communauté urbaine de Douala 2e ont procédé hier à une campagne de démolition de magasins construits le long de la route à Newbell. Cet exercice qui a vu la résistance des commerçants vise à lutter contre le désordre urbain. Le reportage de Fon Quinta.
Fighting urban disorder in major cities of Cameroon has been top priority of municipal council agents, especially in the Douala Littoral region of Cameroon. Thursday, April 29, municipal officers of the Douala 2 Council embarked on a campaign to demolish makeshift structures along roadsides in the Newbell neighborhood. The exercise saw resistance from traders, though it yielded no fruits. The traders say officials care less about their well-being. According to these traders, council officials have marked out small spaces sold at 100,000 CFA francs per square. We have been doing business here for a long time. It's here that we get food for our families. Municipal agents have marked it to sell a square meter for 100,000 CFA francs. The officials, in their effort to curb urban disorder, use caterpillars to demolish all structures positioned along the roadside. To these other traders, whose shop was destroyed, government is treating them as slaves. We do not understand. We love our country and have been struggling, but government is not helping us. They rather treat us as slaves. They have destroyed my shop, and I don't know what to do. A lady, after seeing her shop destroyed, collapses, though it did not stop the officials from carrying out their job. While municipal agents were destroying shops constructed by roadsides at the Newbell neighborhood, other traders were spotted doing business hitch-free, not far from the destruction site.
En prélude à la journée mondiale de la presse, ce 3 mai prochain, une manifestation pacifique planifiée par les patrons de la presse à Yaoundé pour dénoncer les violences que subissent les journalistes au Cameroun et le non-respect de la liberté de la presse camerounaise a été interdite par le sous-préfet de Yaoundé 1er, comme nous le dit Aileen Sama dans ce reportage.
The peaceful protest planned for Monday, May 3, 2021, World Press Freedom Day by the Cameroon Press Bosses Network, dubbed REPAC, will no longer take place as previously envisaged due to a ban by the Deputy Divisional Officer of Yaoundé 1, Haruna Nyanji Mbatu, through a decision taken on April 27, 2021. The raison d'etre of the ban, according to Haruna Nyanji, is for the preservation of social order on World Press Freedom Day, as well as the need to respect the barrier measures against the deadly COVID-19 pandemic, especially that which prohibits a gathering of more than 50 people taken by the Cameroon government. The press bosses of Cameroon, who initially planned a peaceful protest for May 3rd against the persecution of journalists in the country, and most importantly, government's refusal to implement the recommendations of the 2021 General Statement, which will go a long way to ameliorate the issue of press freedom in the country, will now have to postpone plans for the peaceful demonstration slated for Monday, May 3rd, 2021, from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. from the Yaoundé City Hall to the Ministry of Communication. According to Francois Mboke, president of REPAC, the network has always criticized government's failure to implement the recommendations of the 2021 General Statements, and the network is now ready to expose their plight to the national and international bodies. It is worth mentioning that journalists in the country are often harassed and tortured by law and security forces in the course of doing their jobs on a daily basis. The most recent case happened few days to Press Freedom Day, involves a journalist at Canal 2, Bertrand Sasse, who was brutalized by municipal police officers in Yaoundé, sustaining injuries on his face and mouth, whilst covering the clashes between the municipal police agents and commercial bike riders in Yaoundé 5 municipality.
United Africa for Economic Empowerment, en abrégé UNAFE, organise depuis hier, 29 avril 2021, une série de formations à l'autonomisation économique pour les femmes déplacées en termes des régions en crise. Ces activités qui ont débuté justement hier et qui se sont achevées ce 30 avril marquent la célébration du premier anniversaire de UNAFE. Gladys Bomotongina dans ce reportage.
L'organisation internationale United Africa for Economic Empowerment, UNAFE, dans le cadre de la célébration de leur premier anniversaire, ont décidé d'effectuer une descente sur le terrain, question de rencontrer et former les femmes camerounaises déplacées internes de la crise socio-politique présente dans le nord-ouest et sud-ouest du pays. À l'ordre du jour pour la première journée d'ouverture, le jeudi 29 avril 2021, atelier de fabrication de vinaigre, savon en liquide et eau de javel. Question de permettre à ces femmes de devenir financièrement indépendantes.
We took it upon us to celebrate the first anniversary of the organization in this country by actually making sure we get into the community to empower precisely IDPs, and to be precise, women, because we believe that they are the most vulnerable in the society. And in celebrating this, our program for celebration goes with training of these women on economic empowerment strategies. And after that, we'll have a conference which lasts for 2 days, that's 29 and the 30th.
Une opération rendue possible grâce à l'appui de Hope for Vulnerable. Lien de rapport entre les déplacés internes et l'organisation UNAFE.
An event organized by UNAFE with the internally displaced women from the northwest and southwest regions who are found in the littoral region. It is an economic empowerment outing because they've had training, they've had skills acquisition on production of certain items, which is going to help them economically, because the aim of the project is to see them financially independent.
La trentaine de femmes présentes et ayant reçu ces formations remercient fortement cette initiative à leur endroit.
So we are very pleased with the visit we had today, because we had to learn about how to produce vinegar. Once I had a bottle to take home for testing, we learned how to do eau de javel, liquid eau de javel. And now we know what it contains in a bleach. After that, we were taught how to make liquid soaps. And now we are very happy. Tomorrow is still another day. We are very grateful for the help they want to give us. And we pray that God lead them and give them the strength to continue teaching us, because it's going to help us to grow better in the society.
La deuxième journée de formation sera consacrée à l'atelier de fabrication de babouches Made in Africa, et suivi le samedi 1er mai 2021 par le partage de présents prévus par l'organisation à leur endroit.
Les abus sexuels, physiques et même mentaux que subissent les élèves, étudiants et même enseignants dans les établissements scolaires sont courants de nos jours, ce qui remet en cause la qualité de l'éducation offerte et même reçue. La question de savoir ce qu'il faut faire pour établir ou rétablir une relation sans abus entre l'enseignant et l'élève est à répondre dans ce reportage que signe Genda Perdune Blanche.
Recent stories from most academic institutions across the country prove academic experts, teachers and students indulge into abusive practices in 2021 more than in 2011. Since the start of 2021, over 7 cases of sexual harassment on campus has been recorded and several cases of mental, verbal and physical abuse recorded. The most recent being a young student allegedly harassed sexually by a supposed discipline master during school hours. This recurrent situation has raised concerns and pushed many to pose questions that address the aspects of teacher-student relationship. At a time when several activists are forging for a conducive and enabling learning environment, how can teachers successfully maintain student-teacher relationships void of any form of abuse?
At this level, we have a small problem. The problem of how the teachers get to interact with the students to ensure that there is no abuse, little or no abuse, sexually, physically, emotionally, because all of these, naturally, they do exist in school. And I'll begin with sexual abuse. It really is a problem, especially with us, the male lecturers. But I would like to say that as a lecturer, as a male lecturer, it starts with discipline. First of all, you need to have your objectives. You need to know your objectives and master them. Some of the students come to school naturally with a mindset of getting the teachers, abused. Teachers come with a mindset of getting the students abused. So as a lecturer, we make it our goal to follow the strict rules and regulations of the institution, to follow your objectives and ensure that you are disciplined and ensure to pass out the information in order to avoid any confrontation with students.
According to this administrator, academic rules should be clearly defined for both students and teachers, and defaulters severely punished to serve as an example to any other who attempts such.
To curb this student and teacher abuse coming from whatever direction, an advice to the institution is that at the beginning or at academic levels, there should be rules and regulations stated. And I think that the law should set in and set out these regulations straight. If a student abuses a lecturer or abuses a teacher, they should face sanctions. The age does not matter. Who you know does not matter. Whose sons or whose daughter it is doesn't matter. They should face sanctions, starting from disciplinary sanctions in the school. And if it's above the school to handle, I think the law should set in.
This student takes us back to his experience when he was physically and mentally abused by an administrator and how he managed the situation, urging every other student to behave as such if faced similar situation.
I've never been actually like a victim of sexual harassment, but I've actually been a victim of other sorts of violence. I've been a victim of mental violence, like you see a situation where a student is to share a point with the teacher, and the next thing is the lecturer or teacher does not actually try to reason with the student, and the next thing is like assault. You see, I've also been a case of physical violence where, a principal was just walking in class due to the fact that you're sitting on the first bench, he lifts his arms with his chest, and then the next thing he cracks at you or slaps you with actually no cause. So some of these things are really supposed to be addressed. Home issues remain home issues. Administrative issues should be left administrative issues. Student issues left student issues, and the relationship should be well defined and well limited.
Abuse in an academic milieu is an unfortunate reality of contemporary society. Most victims are forced to live with the sad experiences, while others lost their lives in the course. Though organizations, associations, government authorities, and administrators have launched the fight against violence and abuse on campus, experts say a lot still needs to be done, and fast.
Suivons à présent l'extrait de cet étudiant qui donne des mesures à prendre en cas d'harcèlement sexuel.
Concernant l'harcèlement sexuel en milieu scolaire, lorsque un étudiant se fait harceler par un professeur, lorsqu'elle se fait harceler par un professeur sexuellement, cet étudiant doit se rendre à l'administration pour porter plainte contre ce professeur. Parce que si à jamais tu es harcelé par un professeur, tu racontes ça à ta camarade, la situation peut se dégénérer. Ou tu racontes à l'un de ses collègues qui sait, peut-être il peut être ami avec son collègue et ça n'aura pas d'effet. Son collègue n'ira pas, son collègue ne peut pas avoir le courage d'aller lui porter plainte. C'est pour ça qu'il y a l'administration uniquement, il y a eu l'administration à l'école uniquement pour ce genre de plainte. Tu te diriges à l'administration, tu poses ton problème. C'est que l'administration va trouver une solution à ton problème.
Voilà, à présent, présidée chaque 30 avril par l'UNESCO, la Journée internationale du jazz vise à sensibiliser la communauté internationale aux vertus du jazz en tant que force de paix, d'unité, de dialogue et de coopération renforcée entre les peuples, ainsi qu'un outil pédagogique. La célébration de cette année se focalise sur la consolidation de la paix, la promotion du patrimoine culturel et des traditions. Et selon le pianiste et compositeur de jazz Herbie Hancock, jouer du jazz a plusieurs avantages. Son extrait.
UNESCO established this day in recognition of the transformative power of jazz to break down barriers, to foster dialogue, and to build peace in our communities. This is happening in countries from Africa to Asia, from North America to the Middle East, from Europe to Latin America. Because jazz carries the messages of freedom, diversity, and human dignity that people around the world call for. And there is boundless hope and joy, resilience, and solidarity in this great art form that the world needs as well, especially this year. Today is not only an occasion for us to unite around jazz music, it is an opportunity to support all those musicians who give their talent, their soul, and their energy to make the world a better place.
C'est ainsi que nous mettons fin à l'édition de ce jour qui a été coordonnée par Fetata. Ewan et Elaine Olinga étaient à la production. Madame, Messieurs, merci d'avoir été des nôtres. Bonne soirée.